Hey Stacey, welcome to the Voice Notes from the Organized Homeschool podcast. I am thrilled to learn from you and chat with you and hear all about your homeschool journey. So can you kick things off by just telling me more about you, your background, and about your homeschool, maybe how long you've been homeschooling, how many children, their ages, and anything else that feels relevant, and then we'll go from there.
Hey Erica, I'm so excited too. Nervous, but excited. So my name's Stacey. I'm a British expat living in Dubai. I have 4 children. I started homeschooling accidentally during COVID when my kids were all sent home from school and I was actually seeing the distance learning and I was like, hang on a minute, because in the UAE you have to pay for schooling, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I can manage that myself. And I think because I didn't have the school runs and the school lunches, everything just felt calmer. So I tried homeschooling over the summer with all 4 of them, and it worked, so I pulled them out of school. So I've been homeschooling for 6 years. It's been a bit of an adventure. I've had many different approaches. So now 6 years later, I have 3 children at home, and my eldest has gone back to school. So I'm currently homeschooling 3 children, age 14, 12, and 11, so grades 9, 7 and 6. I was doing the British curriculum, but now I've switched to American just because I find it much more flexible and you can kind of like personalize the learning rather than sticking to the unfortunately rigid British approach. So that's me. Love homeschooling, but I do assess every year. So if any of my children say they want to go back to school, then I will, we'll do school tours and make that happen. But thankfully, only one's gone back to school. I'd love for him to come home, but he's happy there, so that works for him. So 3 kids, homeschooling. We've just completed our 6th year, going to our 7th year next year.
All right, so good to kick off this conversation. I am curious to know, why did you move to Dubai, being a British expat? And this is a selfish question because my husband has been to Dubai twice and he loves it there, and we're plotting on a trip for me to get there once, so I'll definitely have to come stop by and say hello if I make it there. And also, what did you do before you were homeschooling, or do you still do that career-wise, or were you staying at home and then COVID hit and just like stayed home when the kids stay home with you? Just curious to know that as well.
So we actually moved to Dubai in 2004. So me and my husband came to Dubai and we just fell in love and we relocated basically. So he was in property, which was the perfect time to come and get into property, and he established himself here. And then I got into the beauty industry and ended up with a beauty and slim spa. It was mainly on slimming. And that's that. But then when I had started having children, I think after my second child, then a credit crunch hit. And to be honest, I just remember one day, like I was trying to make an email and it was really stressful because the market just crashed. Nobody had any expendable cash and it was just really difficult. And I remember snapping at my daughter. She was so small and I just thought, I can't do this. So I spoke to my husband and I sold the spa, and now I'm just a stay-at-home mum. So from then, which was probably about, 14 years ago, I've just been a stay-at-home mum. And that's what I'm doing now. But if you ever come to Dubai, I would love to meet you. I can show you around. So hopefully you can make that trip soon.
Okay, I love this, and I love that you've been able to stay home for so long with your kids and now homeschooling them. So cool. And yes, we'll meet up, and I'm going to make the trip. And my husband is actually in commercial real estate, so I'm sure they would love to connect too. But let's talk about your typical day. So what does a typical homeschool day look like for you? Just walk us through that day. And then I have a bunch of other questions, but let's start there.
Okay, my love. Well, that would be nice when you come. It would be lovely to meet you. Okay, so our homeschool day, to be honest with you, it really depends on the season. So when I first start the homeschool year, everything is like all guns blazing and I have everything planned out and I'm very organized. So in those, I'm going to call them my most productive seasons, then we would usually start off with breakfast and then we'd have a read aloud, we'd have a discussion, and then my eldest will go off and she'll do her independent work, whether it's her IEW or her maths or her science. She has a tutor not now because we're at the end of the year, but usually she has a tutor 3 times a week. So she'll do her tutoring and she has her language, which is also a tutor. And I do pull her in for some family lessons, for example, when we do Islamic. But generally, my eldest daughter, she works mostly alone. So I spend a lot of my time with my younger two kids. So again, I've grouped them. So we do language arts together, we do science together, history together. So depending on where they are, or depending where we are in the week. So for example, if it's a Monday, I like to start with IEW, and we'll work through the source text and we'll do our keyword outline. And then we'll do maths, and then depending who has a tutor, they'll do their tutor and I'll work with the other one independently. Then we'll break for lunch. And then usually in the afternoons, we'll come back and we will do, for example, history one day, and the next day we'll do science. So my days always have English and maths, always. Like, these are non-negotiable. And then I try to add in the afternoons, like after lunch, we will do history or we will do science. Now, if my kids wake up and they're not in the mood, then I will tend to do something more read aloud. So, for example, I'll pick up a good book and I'll read out a chapter, we can have a discussion. I'll do something easy like drawing or just playing. Or I'll do history, to be honest with you. We're doing Story of the World, and my kids really love that. So they love to listen to that. So whilst I'm reading aloud, they can do the colouring pages. And then obviously after, just for something tangible, we'll do the recall questions and the quizzes. So yeah, that's kind of like our days. But like I said, some seasons are more productive and other seasons I'm more chilled. So at the moment, because we're the end of the year and I feel like we've done most of our work, I'm taking it really easy. We have a lot more time for, I'm not going to say free play because my kids don't really play, but more creative blocks where they kind of follow their own interests. I hope that answered your question. I kind of rambled on.
Yep, you definitely answered the question, and I love how you're like, it kind of changes with our season and sometimes with my kids' moods and stuff like that, so allowing that flexibility makes a lot of sense. You mentioned the Story of the World for history and IW, which I'm assuming is a curriculum. Can you tell me more about like what curriculum you're using? What does the planning or organization look like for you? I know you said like in the beginning you're a super plan, so what does that version look like? What was like light planning look like? And then you also mentioned tutors, which I love. Like a lot of people feel like they have to take on everything, so I would love to know, like, what do your tutors do? Do they do all subjects? How did you decide when to pull in a tutor? Why are you using tutors? Because, you know, I think this is an opportunity for people who might feel like I might need some support to learn from you of like what could support look like? What does it look like for you? So a possible option for them.
Okay, so first I'll talk about the tutors. Initially, when I first started homeschooling, because I had 4 kids and obviously we came home in COVID, I couldn't manage all of them. So I utilized things like Outschool to try and keep my little ones busy so I could work with the big ones. And then math. To be honest with you, I realized pretty early on that math is not my strong point. I mean, I had this image from like when I was at school, I was really good at math, but I feel like math changed. So when I was seeing my son's math, I was like, okay, do you know what? I can't help you with this. So I went on Preply and I found a math tutor, and thankfully he's still with us now. So we've had the same tutor for the last 6 years. He specializes in math, but he's also incredible with science. So for my eldest, because now she's in high school, she has him 3 times a week, and that's like the anchor. And then because this year I messed up with Singapore maths, I now have him twice a week for both my younger 2 as well. So altogether they've got, basically I've delegated math. I think I cause more problems trying to teach it with them because I'm learning alongside them. So yeah, so I outsource math 100%. Another thing I outsource is Arabic because number 1, I'm still learning myself, and number 2, I just don't have the patience or the resources to be able to teach my kids. So I've outsourced maths and Arabic, and also science when my daughter needs science, my eldest one. Everything else I do myself, or it's done independently. So Story of the World is history. I've played around with different geography curriculums, but I haven't found one that I love. IEW is my staple. Like, I love IEW. This is a writing curriculum from the Institute of Excellence of Writing. And honestly, coming from the British curriculum, this has really, really given the tools to my kids and to myself to learn how to write, to organize their thoughts, and they've just improved. We've been using it for 3 years. And honestly, for me, for my homeschool, from where I was to where we are now, it's been a godsend. Like, it's been incredible. It's not for everyone, but it worked for us. for grammar, I've also used IEW, and I've played around with Michael Clay Thompson. So I'm a bit of an eclectic. I take curriculums from everywhere, and I have my staples, which is my foundation, which is my math, science and English, and I kind of sprinkle in different curriculums here and there. So if I want to, I don't know, complement IEW, then I'll add in some essay voyage, or I don't know, I kind of sprinkle around, but I have my, what are they called, my staples, what are they called, the things that the non-negotiables. So for planning, usually I am my strongest after a break. So after the summer, I kind of get bored of doing nothing and traveling, and I'm like, okay, I come back and then I'll like look at all my curriculums and I will figure out, okay, what do I need to do, when do I need to do it, and I make like a schedule. But like I said, my anchors, that's the word I was looking for earlier, the anchors. I have my anchors, which is the tutors, and then I work around that. So I slot in my tutors, and then, so for example, on a Monday, I know we need to do IEW. I'll start off with some read alouds, and then we'll do the IEW, and then we'll do the math, tutors, and then in the afternoons, I'll swap between history or between science, really, depending on the mood of the kids and what they feel like and just how organized I am. If I'm extremely organized, then we'll do science. If I'm not very organized, then I'll default to history because it's just easier. But yeah, so basically, I tend to have like the motivation to get a lot more done, but I find that my energy fizzles because life gets in the way, you have family that come over, you need to do more housework, you need to do more cooking, other responsibilities will come up. So therefore I tend to always make sure that my English and maths is done, English, maths, and then the language, and then I kind of fit everything else in around that. So it's more flexible. I wouldn't say that I have a set schedule, but I do have days when I get a lot more done. This is it as well. So when I'm in my organized, we'll do a little bit of read aloud in the morning, then we'll do spelling, and we'll do grammar, and then we'll do IW, then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back. But then when my days are when I feel like I'm just tired or life is busy or I'm distracted, then it will just be the IEW and the maths and the science, really. So, and the history, because they're easy. But all the little bits, like for example the life of Fred and the grammar and the spelling, I tend to drop all of that. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, I'm so sorry, I did waffle a lot. But for these parents, and I know a couple of them that feel like they need to do all of it, I just think that there is absolutely no harm in taking advantage of the resources and delegating. Number one, for your own mental health, because it's just too much. Like when you have so many children and you're trying to juggle so many different subjects and levels, and you've still got the house and you've still got the kitchen. No, if you can afford it, just delegate. I think in the UAE, because private education anyway, you have to pay for. For me, I'm saving. So I see it as I'm saving, so I will just delegate the things that I find difficult, or if I need to keep one busy because I need to work with another, then I'll just kind of make the schedule work around that.
Okay, this is really good. No apologies or anything around like going off on tangents or talking for a long time. We want all the details, so I appreciate this. I have a couple follow-up questions. So one, are you homeschooling, or are you doing science and history all together, even though you have 3 different ages? Are they doing math together, right? Like how do you split up their age groups? That was one follow-up question. The next one, thank you for sharing the curriculum you're using. I know you mentioned you switched from a British curriculum to an American-based curricula. So tell me about that switch, if there's any more to say, like why did you make the pivot and how did you navigate like that change in curriculum? And then I have one, like I think it might be a quick response, but I just don't know. What are the laws for you in terms of homeschooling? As a British expat in Dubai, are there laws? And whose are you following? Do you have to follow Dubai? Do you have to follow British law? Like I don't know. I'm curious. I didn't think about that until just now. As you were like talking through curriculum and things, I was like, wait a second, in the States, every state has a law and then the county enforces that law. So you have to like report to your county or city, whatever school district your child would typically go to. In my state, it's by county, the school districts, but in some states it's city school districts. So just to recap, how are you navigating like the different grade levels? Do you do all subjects together? does everyone have their own subjects? That's one. Just a little clarity around that. The second one was, how did you navigate this switch between British to American curriculum frameworks? And then third is just laws around homeschooling. What does that look like for you? Thanks.
Okay, my love. So, subjects that I grouped together is, for all three kids, is just Islamic, to be honest with you. But everything else is, my eldest daughter, everything for her is split. So her language arts is different, her maths, her science, her history, all of that is done separately, her maths tutor and her Arabic tutor. So the only thing she does with her kids, with her siblings, is Islamic, which is religious studies. For my younger two, I group them for history, for English, for language arts, and for, my gosh, there's one more thing. This year, I also grouped them for science for this semester. Last year, they had their separate sciences, but then my younger sibling, she thought that my son's science looked much more fun, so she joined his. But next year, I'm going to split them again. So yes, I group them for ability and for my ease of life where I can, but things that I can't group them for is math, because they're all different abilities and they go at different paces. I don't want to hold anyone back. What was the other one? How did I switch from British to American? So the British system, even though it holds a good reputation in the world, it's very rigid. And I find that it's teaching to the test. So my eldest son has gone back to school for his GCSEs, which is a British general certificate for the secondary education. So when they're 16 and they finish high school, they get their GCSEs. And then they go on either they can do a BTEC or they can do their A-levels. So my son now is going on to his A-levels. But when I was going on this path, there's no flexibility. Like, there's genuinely no flexibility. You choose a subject, they give you all the information, and you have to memorize this information, and you have to answer the questions exactly as they want. The closer you get to the answer they want, the higher your grade. There's no freedom of thought or opinion. It's just memorization. You're teaching to the test, and I find that it just sucks the life out of learning. When you're learning, like, they might understand the subject and they might be able to articulate it very well, but if they don't use the right words or they don't use it in the framework that is required by the examiners, they lose points. So when my eldest two went on to online school and I had more flexibility, being in Dubai, a lot of families here, they use American curriculum. So they use umbrella schools like Clonlara or Brightways. So I was like, do you know what? While they're still young, I can play around. I saw the British education from like years 1 to 7. I was like, they're not going to miss anything. Let me just experiment for a year. So I switched to American, and I've honestly, thanks to social media, I just fell in love with the American curriculums. I was like, oh my God, they just, they teach writing and you can find creation-based science. And I just found that the variety of curriculums was so much more rich than what I was experiencing with the British. So I switched. So I signed up with Brightways, which is it's an American umbrella school. I don't know what you call it. It's not an umbrella school, but basically I give them my ILPs. There's an educational lady who she'll tell me, right, this is good, that's not good, add this, drop this. And she helps me to get a proper ILP together. And then every semester I submit their work and their grades, and she supplies me with a transcript. So I switched from British to American for this reason. Being British, I know this sounds terrible, but you're always raised that, our education is the best and everything else is easy and all of that. But that's not true. It holds weight, but it's so rigid. And I don't believe that the British A-levels is different. The ones from 16 to 18, yes, this is more specialized. But the high school GCSEs, I think it just kills education. So yes, I switched to American. My daughter now, she's just finished grade 9. So we're doing the credit system. And I just think that the credit system gives you so much more flexibility to put together an education that, number one, it fits the criteria. If my daughter wants to go to university, which I hope she does, but at the end of the day, that's her choice. And number two, you can really play with the credits. The flexibility is incredible. So yeah, that's why I went to American. We're looking for American universities, again, just for the flexibility, for the credit system, for the ability to change your mind after 2 years of study. Because the British, like I said, unless one of my children really knows what they want to do, then I think that the American system is much more forgiving in that sense. I hope that I've answered all your questions.
Okay, nope, this was all really helpful. You completely answered my questions, and just super interesting hearing about the different curriculum that you had experience with. I don't know, I just didn't really like expect that about a British curriculum. I don't know why. I guess it kind of makes sense now. I'm not sure. But it's so interesting, and I definitely can see the American curriculum being flexible and so many options, which is like overwhelming for many homeschoolers. But it's, it's one of those things that's like, if it's not your norm, it can be more viewed as a positive, right? Like, and I think many of us do view it as positive, but like a lot of times it's like, we're so overwhelmed, there's too many options. But it's like, well, this is great, we have so many options. And it's just learning to navigate them and be decisive in order to figure out what's best for you and your family. So thank you for that. I would love to hear about how it came to be that your oldest is now back in school. And how did you make that decision? How did you all navigate that? What does that look like with, one child in school and then the others at home homeschooling? I would just like to hear more about that.
Yeah, so why did my eldest end up back in school? So having 4 kids, not really knowing what was age appropriate work, trying to manage them all. I was doing the British system, which was everyone is in their own year and they've got their own subjects at their own curriculum. It was a headache. I'm trying to manage 4 different children at varying ages, like so many subjects. I was drowning. I'll be honest with you, I was drowning. So I delegated my eldest to tutors. So that was okay, but it wasn't working. So then I put him into an online school. Now, the online school started off really well, but with us living in Turkey at the time, like by then I think we'd been in Turkey 2 years, and he'd been through he was going through puberty and adolescence, and that's the time when kids really kind of withdraw. And we didn't have family, we didn't have friends, we were really isolated. He no longer felt like he wanted to be with his younger siblings, he's kind of outgrown them, too small. And being an online school, he just got really dependent on screens. So me and my husband noticed, number one, a lack of motivation to do anything outside of his school. And then because his school, he had lessons that were from the UK timing and UAE timing, so it was just a mess. Like, we were basically stuck home because he had lessons in the morning and lessons in the evening. So after the first year, we're like, okay, if you want to continue homeschooling, you need to keep your grades up. But after the second year, me and my husband looked at each other like, this isn't going to work. So we moved to Qatar and we made a decision like, look, he needs to go back to school. He had changed, he became really withdrawn. His grades were dropping. He was just losing interest. And I think because of our situation and adolescence and puberty, we needed to make a change. So my eldest was going into year 10, and the British system, there's 2 times when you're not allowed to change schools or you're not allowed to be accepted into schools, and that's between years 10 and 11 for GCSEs and between years 12 and 13, which is for A-levels. So as he was coming into year 10, me and my husband decided that maybe he should go to school. So we applied to schools and he got a place and he went. The reasons for him going there was just because of our circumstances from traveling to different countries and not really having a community or being surrounded by friends and family, he became a bit lonely. He kind of outgrew his siblings. He was going through puberty, adolescence, and he just became really screen dependent. So all of this, and his grades dropped. So we just said, you know what, this isn't working. He was not at a stage where he could come home and work with me because he kind of outgrew me as well. I can't explain it. It's something weird that happens with boys between 12 and like 14. I'd say also with girls, but I haven't had it with my daughter, thankfully. I'm not going to say she's drifted, but like she's kind of, I'm not going to say outgrew, I don't know how to explain it. Like, my role has changed. Like, I can't sit there and teach her because she's got her own thoughts and opinions. So yeah, so school was the best thing for him. It also had its fair share of problems, like it wasn't perfect, but that's what he needed. And part of my homeschool philosophy is that I will, if any of my kids come to me and say that they want to go back to school, then I'll make it happen. I'm not going to like keep them at home if it's no longer serving its purpose. As long as it's working, I'm happy. But the day that it doesn't work for my children, whether academically or socially or mentally, then obviously I'm gonna make the changes necessary. So yes, so that is, I've completely forgotten what I said in the first voice notes, but hopefully that finished the story.
This is so real, and I just appreciate your perspective, and I'm very similar in terms of like, if homeschooling is not working for me or my kids, then we can make a change, and it's it's totally okay to make that change, right? Like, I love how you put it, like academically, socially, mentally, those areas have to all be working or else it's not working. One of them's not working, then it's not working at all. So I love that. And kudos to you for, making that change for your son to allow him to, follow in the direction that felt best for him at that moment. So good. I'm curious to know, I think you've mentioned like sports a couple times, but what does socialization look like? That's a big question that people ask about homeschooling. And even as a homeschool mom, especially when you're new, you can feel worried about like, how am I going to have my kids have friends and a community and socialize? So what does socialization look like for your kids? And then like, what does community look like for you? Because it can feel like you're home alone by yourself homeschooling, even though that's not true. You have tutors, you have your husband, like all the things and people, but sometimes it can feel isolating. So what does it look like for you and for your kids?
Yeah, I agree. Like, if it's not working in whichever area, I think you need to adapt and make changes. So I'm grateful that I have this mindset because I have come across certain families where no matter what, they like wouldn't put their kids back into school. But they're the exception, they're not the norm. So for socialization, again, this comes in swings and roundabouts. Like, I have times when I'm just so extroverted and I'm going to every meetup and I'm dragging my kids along and I'm going here and I'm going there. I like to talk to people. My kids are a little bit more introverted. My eldest daughter, especially, my younger two, they're a bit more outgoing. But even them, they're a little bit more choosy now as they're getting older with who they want to spend their time with. So my eldest daughter, she's got a small circle of friends, but her cup is full. Like, she doesn't have that much of a craving. Like, she's happy with a text. But like once every week or every couple of weeks, she'll go and meet up with them. We also have, like you said, we have tutors. You've got a big family. Like, we're 4 kids. I have 4 kids and I've got my husband and we've got the helper and we've got in-laws. So it's like, the house is pretty busy in general. The neighbors' kids are around all the time. So I think, to be honest with you, like I said, the socialization swings and roundabouts. When I'm very extroverted, I will go out everywhere. And then other times I'm like, do you know what? I've done too much of that. We need to focus on studies. If my kids ever feel like they're lonely or they want to link up with anybody, then I'll say, listen, Mum, I want to meet up. When the weather's good, we do a lot more. But now the weather is quieter, then, everything's kind of gone to like play gyms and malls. And that's not really appealing to my younger two. Like, they've kind of been there, done that. So we tend to have like smaller get-togethers. But when the weather is good, there's a really big community here. And we've got WhatsApp groups. So basically there's different groups. You've got boys 10 to 12 and girls 8 to 10, or tween group, teen group. So I find that they're a lot more active in the better weather days. So there's park meetups, football. There is a lot of sports. But I mean, I don't know what it's like where you are. I just feel like the logistics is the barrier that prevents consistent socialization. It takes a lot more effort. So I tend to stay local and kind of like hang out with whoever's kind of in my area. And that seems to work. My daughter, she goes once a week to this homeschool hub. It's a friend of ours, actually. We met her through parkour. She's a homeschooling mom and she's an unschooler. So her daughter's amazing at ice skating. So she completely unschools. And she made like a little homeschool place where kids can just go and be themselves. Like, she kind of has like ideas what they want to do, but it's basically just like a creation hub. Well, there's no structure, but the girls just kind of like, I don't know, they just keep themselves busy. They're creating, they make things. So she goes there once a week. So that kind of gives her that socialization output and a bit of a change from the house. But it isn't as easy as, obviously it's not built in. The socialization, no matter which way we view the school socialization, it's not built in. You do have to be more intentional and you have to make more effort to make it happen. And that depends a lot on me. If I'm in the mood, I will make it happen. And when I'm tired, I'm like, do you know what, guys? Not this week. So yeah, it's not as consistent as I would like, but I feel my kids are fine. Like I said, if they ask me, I'll make it happen. But a lot of the time I'm kind of pushing them and they're happy at home. They're more than happy at home. I'm the one that's like, come on, I want to go out. I want to meet people. So for myself, I tend to keep Saturdays to myself. And that's when my kids are like, it's my weekend. I want to chill. They love screens. So they like to just be boring and be on screens all day, which drives me mad. But I let them. So I tend to do my coffees and my breakfasts and all my errands on that day. Again, I'm not sure if I answered your question. I kind of went around the houses. But yeah, so socialization is not as easy or as consistent as I would like it to be. It takes a lot more effort from my side. It's fine by me when I'm in the mood. I will get out there and I'll make things happen. But a lot of the time, I feel like I'm forcing my children to go along. They've got a few friends who they enjoy their company, but they don't crave their company all the time. So yeah, that is where we are. What about for you anyway? How is it going for you?
I love this. And I love how, like, your homeschool, it feels like the theme of your homeschool is that you kind of go with your seasons and how you're feeling. And that ends up being like what you use to make decisions about how you run your homeschool. And that's like the beauty of it, right? You get to decide how exactly you want to run your homeschool, and it can ebb and flow and change and pivot and morph based off of your kids and you. So that's so good. For us, for socialization, some similar things definitely we have. Well, it's mostly just my older son now, although my 2-year-old, we just enrolled him in my gym, and I've been trying to get a little more serious about going to library play dates or library story time and things like that. But for my oldest, he does different sports, he does co-op, and then we just try to find time with friends whenever we can. So whether that's like a park play meetup, or having friends over to our house, or going to friends' houses, or we do free skate on Fridays with some friends at the ice rink nearby. So that's kind of what it looks like for us. Okay, you've shared so many great things. I have 2 final questions for you, and then I want to open it up for you to share anything that we didn't get to talk about. The first question is, what is currently bringing you joy? Or you can choose to share like a resource you're loving right now. So kind of on a similar wavelength. The second question is, what's your biggest piece of advice for someone who is new to homeschooling, currently homeschooling? And then of course, anything that you would like to talk about that we didn't get to talk about or that you didn't get to share.
Okay, so that's a really tough one, actually. I'm going to start with a resource just because I find it easier to articulate into words. So I think the resource that I'm enjoying, not everybody's cup of tea, and I really get that. But for me, a problem in my homeschool was writing. So we've been using IW for the last 3 years, and honestly, I am so blown away by their progress of how much they have grown in the last 3 years, that this year, especially this year, seeing where they have come from their first pieces of writing back in September to their final pieces just last month, I am blown away by their progress, by their vocabulary, by their composition, the way they organize their thoughts, their actual thoughts, their voices coming through. So that is something that I love. And I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, neither child nor parent. It takes a lot of effort, but this is something that I am really, really, really happy with, and I'm so proud of my kids. And to be honest, they are too. They might not love it, but I think that they're really happy with what they're producing. So that's a resource that I'm loving at the moment. It's consistent, you know what you're getting, and they just build upon each year. They just layer on skills upon skills, and yeah, wow, love it. My other joy, that's harder because I don't know how to articulate into words. Like, I think I have a sense of contentment with the life that we've been building over the last 6 years. Like, obviously homeschooling, it's a real roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster, and you have to be so careful not to burn out, because when you burn out, it's hell. You're tired, you're trapped. I mean, I think in the US is different, but for example, here as a homeschooling parent, if one day you wake up and you're like, I can't take this anymore and I want to put my kids back into school, it's not easy. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a chance you might not be able to get in if you haven't done your transcripts, or it's hard. So I think that we've been through some really rough patches, and I think at the moment I'm in a good place because I've broke the chains of the school system finally. I mean, some women are incredible. They just jump straight into homeschooling. They know what they're going to do, and they kind of, they just carve their own path, and I love that. But it took me so many years to break away mentally from the school system, to stop trying to keep up with the school system, to stop trying to recreate the school system. It really took me a long time to carve my own path. So I think one of my biggest joys at the moment is finally being on a path and building a life for our family where my children can still enjoy their childhood. They can still, they have the freedom to follow their passions. We're close. Our bond is so much closer than it ever was before. And I'm just grateful. I think it's more gratitude than joy. I'm just really grateful that I've been able to have this opportunity to create this life with my kids. Not always easy, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So I think my biggest joy is the fact that, I don't know, how do I put that into words? My gosh, the fact that I'm able to spend this time and to see their childhood live and be such a big part of it. So I think that's probably my biggest joy. So advice for new homeschoolers. I mean, we have the standard advice, which I think a lot of parents have done the hard way and always look back with reflection, which is don't try to recreate school at home. I mean, for some families, I think it works. I know success stories, but majority of families that have tried to recreate school at home, it fails because you're not at home and it's not school and you're not a teacher, So I think I would say to spend some time with your kids, find out how they learn, their learning styles, find out their interests and lean into it. From a young age, try to teach them independence, like my kids with their schoolwork. I mean, my girls are better than my boys. I still have to spoon feed my boys and get the books out. It drives me nuts. But I just put that down to genetics. Whereas my girls can get their books, check off their checklists and do their independent work without too much fuss. But I think the main thing to keep you grounded in your moments of doubt is to really sit with yourself. Or if you're married, like sit with your husband and just figure out what is important for you and your family. What do you want your children to learn? Who do you want them to become? And really think of a why you are homeschooling. Like my why has changed over the years. When I first started, my why was because they came home in COVID and I saw what they were learning from the distance learning. And I'm like, hold on a minute, I'm doing the maths. Like, we're paying this much money a year and they're doing twinkle sheets. Like, what is this? So I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure while COVID is happening, let me have a go. I'm pretty sure I can have a go at this. So my why was to give a better education, at least the same, if not better education they were receiving in school without all the fluff that really annoyed me. And then that changed to, I want to prove that, they can be successful. And then that's changed over the years. Now, I think my why is just to be present, like just to be present during their childhood and to actually watch firsthand the people that they're going to become. Like, I think that's such a beautiful thing to be able to experience, and it's a blessing. So, yeah. Figure out what's important for your family and find out how your children learn, and always remember your why. So yeah, thank you. And if you have anything else, let me know.
This is all so good. Thank you so much for sharing your advice, your resource, and what's giving you joy or bringing you loads of gratitude right now is all just so good. And I just feel like people are going to be grateful for hearing this and help them remember so much of like their why or what's bringing them joy or the reason they continue to homeschool. So I love all of this. Last thing is just for you to just tell folks where they can follow along. I want to say, I think that as of right now, it's July 8th, I think. Yeah, it's July 8th. And I am like loving your Instagram posts that I'm seeing, but I think that it is newer for you. Maybe I feel like I saw that in a recent post, but it could have been a post that you posted a while ago and it was just new to me. But either way, your posts are so good. And so I know people are going to want to find you and maybe ask you some follow-up questions, something that I didn't get to ask, and just connect with you and follow your journey. So please share where they can find you, and then also share if there's anything you've got coming up or any, whether it's a product or service, whatever it is that someone can grab from you or just engage with you more. Definitely feel free to share that. And that's it. Actually, no, that's not it. The other thing is, if there's anything we didn't get to talk about, please share now. I I don't want this to be only the questions that Erica's asked that we get to talk about. So if there's anything else you want to talk about, share that now, and then where people can find you and anything you have coming up.
I just want to say thank you for this. Like, thank you for the opportunity. I thought it was such an amazing initiative. That's why I joined up. Like, it must be so amazing just to be able to hear everyone's stories. I mean, I think that's the beauty of homeschooling, is that there is not just one way to do it. Everyone's got their own way, and things that work for one family doesn't work for another. And, you know, there's so many incredible solutions to issues that we face. So it's nice just to know that we're not alone. Our problems that we're facing are not unique. Yeah, no, it's just amazing. I really am loving Instagram, like the whole community. It's so encouraging and motivating and warm. So yeah, it's amazing the amount of women around the world that are just in touch, and you can just reach out and kind of speak to anyone or reach out. So for me, Instagram is where people can find me. Just my Instagram page. I don't really have anything else for products. I don't have any products. Just offering my advice and my experience to help people. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my little piece of our journey. And yeah, hopefully, I mean, if anybody finds it helpful, that's enough, and that I'll be happy with that. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Stacey. Again, so grateful for you sharing everything that you've shared, and I can't wait for folks to be able to listen to this. I'm excited to keep in touch and keep following you and seeing all the things that you share about your homeschool experience and journey and advice and all of that. So appreciate you so much, and excited to keep in touch. Thanks. Bye.